First contact. The bridge of the exploration vessel New Horizon hummed with quiet efficiency as Captain Jake Morrison reviewed the day's stellar cartography reports. 6 months of deep space exploration had yielded promising data about potentially habitable worlds in this distant sector. Earth's expanding population desperately needed new colonies, and Jake's mission was to map safe passage routes through uncharted space. His loyal German shepherd, Rex, lay beside the captain's chair, brown eyes alert despite the routine nature of their patrol. The dog had been Jake's companion for 5 years, both on Earth and now among the stars. Rex wasn't just a pet, he was a certified member of the crew, trained in search and rescue operations. "Captain," Lieutenant Amy Carter called from the sensor station, her voice tight with concern. "I'm detecting massive energy signatures approaching our position." Jake stood, Rex immediately rising beside him. "How massive?" "3 contacts, sir. They're huge. Each one reads as approximately the size of a small city." The main view screen flickered to life, revealing 3 enormous vessels emerging from what appeared to be folded space. Their hulls were dark metal, almost black, with intricate patterns of blue energy coursing across their surfaces like veins of light. The ships moved with deliberate grace, taking positions that clearly surrounded the tiny human vessel. Rex's ears perked up, and a low growl rumbled in his throat. The dog sensed his crew's tension, even if he couldn't understand the magnitude of what they were facing. "Sir, they're scanning us," Amy reported, her hands flying over her controls. "Multiple energy beams sweeping our hull." Communications Officer Ben Parker looked up from his station. "Captain, we're receiving a transmission on all frequencies." "Put it through." The view screen changed to show the interior of one of the alien vessels. The being that appeared was tall and ethereally thin, with pale blue-gray skin and 4 long arms. Its eyes were large and completely black, reflecting an intelligence that seemed ancient and cold. When it spoke, the ship's universal translator converted the melodic but harsh sounds into English. "I am Commander Vexel of the Zapirian Empire. You will identify yourselves immediately, or be destroyed." Jake stepped forward, Rex staying close to his side. "I'm Captain Jake Morrison of the Earth vessel New Horizon. We're explorers from the planet Earth." "We mean no harm, Commander." Vexel's gaze moved downward, fixing on Rex. Something that might have been amusement flickered across the alien's features. "You bring animals onto your vessels. How, primitive. Your species keeps lower life forms as companions." "Rex isn't just an animal," Jake replied, his hand moving to rest on the dog's head. "He's part of my crew. Dogs have been partners with humans for thousands of years." This seemed to amuse the alien commander further. He turned to speak with someone off-screen, and Jake could hear other alien voices, what sounded disturbingly like laughter. When Vexel turned back, his tone dripped with condescension. "The Zapirian Empire has ruled this galaxy for over 10,000 of your years. We have conquered hundreds of species across thousands of worlds. Never have we encountered a race so foolish as to burden themselves with inferior creatures." Amy stepped forward, anger flashing in her eyes. "They're not inferior. Dogs have abilities humans don't have, better hearing, better smell, better instincts about danger. They're partners, not pets." "Partners?" Vexel repeated, as if the word was foreign to him. "Your species forms emotional bonds with beings that cannot think or reason. This explains why you have not advanced beyond your single world, while we control half the galaxy." Jake felt anger rising but kept his voice steady. "We've made it this far into space. We've built ships that can travel between stars. I'd say we've advanced pretty well." "Your primitive technology barely functions," the alien commander replied dismissively. "Your ship is held together with hope and inferior materials. You carry useless creatures that consume resources and provide nothing of value. You are weak, and weakness has no place in this galaxy." More alien voices could be heard laughing in the background, but Rex wasn't paying attention to the screen. The dog's head was tilted, his nose working. Something had caught his attention, something the humans couldn't detect. "Captain," Amy whispered, "Rex is acting strange." Jake glanced down. Rex was staring intently at a section of wall near the communication station, his body tense, his tail low. The dog's lips pulled back slightly, showing his teeth. "You have 30 of your days to remove all human presence from this sector," Vexel continued. "Evacuate your colonies, recall your ships, and return to your home world. If you refuse, the Zapirian Empire will remove you by force. This is not a negotiation, this is a warning." "And if we refuse your warning?" Jake asked. "Then your species will join the others we have eliminated. You are too primitive to survive in space, too weak to defend yourselves, and too stupid to recognize your betters when you see them. Consider this conversation a mercy." Rex suddenly barked, once, sharp and loud. Every human on the bridge looked at the dog, then followed his gaze to the wall section that had captured his attention. "Ben, run a scan on that area," Jake ordered. Ben's fingers flew over his controls. "Captain, there's something attached to our hull, right where Rex is looking. It appears to be some kind of monitoring device." Jake's blood went cold. "What kind of device?" "It looks like a sophisticated probe. Someone attached it to our ship while we were talking." Commander Vexel's smile revealed too many sharp teeth. "Your animal's hearing detected our scout probe. Interesting, but ultimately useless. You cannot hide from the Zapirian Empire, and you cannot fight us. You put a spy device on our ship," Jake said, his voice hard with anger. "We study all species before we eliminate them. It helps us understand how best to destroy them. Your probe will transmit data about your technology, your weapons, your weaknesses. When we return in 30 days, we will know everything about you." Rex was still growling at the wall, his hackles raised. The crew members looked worried, but Jake noticed something else. Every time Vexel spoke, Rex's growling grew louder. "Remove your device from our ship," Jake demanded. "No. It will remain until we have learned what we need to know. Unless, of course, you wish to try removing it yourself, but I warn you, any attempt to tamper with Zapirian technology will result in your immediate destruction." That's when it happened. 3 energy beams lanced out from the alien ships, not to destroy the New Horizon, but to demonstrate their power. The beams struck the space around the human vessel, close enough to shake the entire ship but not close enough to cause serious damage. But one beam came too close. It struck the outer hull near where Rex had detected the probe. The impact sent a shockwave through the ship, and a piece of metal broke loose from the interior wall. The jagged chunk of steel flew across the bridge and struck Rex in the side, knocking the loyal dog to the floor. Jake dropped to his knees beside his injured partner. Rex was breathing hard, blood matting his fur where the metal had cut him. The dog's brown eyes looked up at his captain, trusting and loyal even while hurt. "You shot my dog," Jake said, his voice barely controlled. Commander Vexel looked at the scene with apparent boredom. "Your animal was injured by accident. This is what happens when primitive species encounter superior technology. Perhaps next time you will not bring useless creatures into dangerous situations." Jake looked up at the screen, his face hard with rage. Every human on the bridge was staring at the aliens with expressions of pure hatred. Amy knelt beside Rex, checking his wounds. Ben's hands hovered near the weapons controls. Even the usually calm engineer was clenching his fists. 30 days, Vexel said. "Remember that number. When we return, we expect this sector to be empty of human presence. If it is not, your species will learn what happens to those who defy the Zapirian Empire." The transmission ended, and the alien ships disappeared as quickly as they had arrived. Jake stayed on the floor next to Rex, one hand on the dog's head. "Amy, how bad is he hurt?" "He'll live, but he needs medical attention. The cut isn't too deep, but he's in pain." Jake stood slowly, his eyes fixed on the empty space where the alien ships had been. "They hurt my dog," he said quietly. "Sir?" Ben asked. "They came here, threatened us, put a spy device on our ship, and hurt my dog." Jake's voice was getting louder. "They think we're weak because we care about our partners. They think emotional bonds make us stupid. Captain, what are our orders?" Jake looked around at his crew, then down at Rex, who was trying to stand despite his injury. "Set course for Earth. Maximum speed." "Are we running away, sir?" "No, Ben. We're going home to get help. And when we come back, we're going to show these aliens exactly what happens when you hurt our dogs." The warning. 3 days after the New Horizons returned to Earth, Admiral Lisa Parker sat in the underground command center beneath Colorado Springs. The room buzzed with tense energy as military officers, scientists, and government officials tried to comprehend the threat humanity now faced. On the large screen at the front of the room, holographic images of the Zapirian ships rotated slowly, their massive forms dwarfing any human vessel. "Their technology is at least 200 years ahead of ours," reported Dr. Helen Martinez, the military's top weapons expert. Her fingers danced across a holographic interface, highlighting various sections of the alien ships. "Their energy shields can stop anything we have. Their weapons can destroy our largest battleships with a single shot. In a straight fight, we lose." General Robert Kim leaned forward in his chair, his weathered face grim. "What about our nuclear weapons? Surely they can't defend against everything." "They can," Dr. Martinez replied flatly. "Our probe data detected energy readings that suggest their shields can absorb the full power of a nuclear explosion. Even our biggest bombs would barely scratch their hulls." Admiral Parker looked around the room at the worried faces. Earth's entire military force was no match for 3 alien ships, let alone the massive empire behind them. The weight of 27 remaining days pressed down on everyone present. She was about to ask for alternative strategies when a voice spoke up from the back of the room. "What if we don't fight them the way they expect?" Everyone turned to look at Dr. Kevin Walsh, a man in his 50s who had spent 20 years in the military before becoming a behavioral scientist. He was holding a tablet displaying images of various dog breeds, and beside him sat his German Shepherd, Max, alert and calm despite the tension in the room. "Explain," Admiral Parker said. Dr. Walsh walked to the front of the room, Max following beside him with practiced military precision. "The aliens think our bond with dogs makes us weak. They see it as a flaw, a sign that we're primitive. But what if they're wrong? What if it's actually our greatest strength?" "Dogs can't fight spaceships," General Kim said with poorly concealed annoyance. "No, but they can do things we can't," Dr. Walsh replied. He touched his tablet, and the main screen changed to display detailed data about canine abilities. "Dogs can smell chemical traces at concentrations 1,000,000 times lower than what humans can detect. They can hear sounds in frequency ranges we can't perceive. They can sense emotions through chemical signals that we don't even know exist." Dr. Martinez frowned. "So what are you suggesting? Every species the aliens have conquered was alone. They evolved by themselves, developed technology by themselves, fought by themselves. But humans didn't evolve alone." Dr. Walsh brought up images showing the evolutionary timeline of human-canine cooperation. "We evolved alongside dogs. For 30,000 years, we've been partners. We developed hunting tactics together, survival strategies together, warfare techniques together." Admiral Parker was beginning to understand. "You're saying we should use our dogs in combat?" "I'm saying we should do what we've always done, fight as a team." Dr. Walsh displayed images of military working dogs in various operations. "We already have thousands of dogs trained to work with soldiers, search and rescue dogs, bomb detection dogs, guard dogs, tracking dogs. What if we adapted their training for space combat?" Colonel Steve Mitchell, who had been quiet until now, spoke up. "It could work. Our special forces already use dogs for missions that would be impossible without them. If we could get these animals onto alien ships, the aliens won't expect it. Exactly, Dr. Walsh continued. They think dogs are useless pets. They won't plan defenses against them. And dogs can do things in space that might surprise everyone. Like what? General Kim asked, his skepticism wavering. Dr. Walsh smiled. Dogs don't get lost. Ever. Put a dog in a maze, and it will find its way out using scent trails. Put a dog in a building, and it can track every person who has been there in the last week. Dogs can detect fear, anger, and stress through smell. They can find hidden enemies, detect deception, and sense danger before it happens. Admiral Parker stood up, decision crystallizing in her mind. Dr. Walsh, I'm putting you in charge of a new project. You have unlimited resources and the authority to recruit anyone you need. I want a plan for using human-dog teams against the Zapirians within 72 hours. Yes, ma'am. 2 days later, Sergeant Maria Lopez stood in a training facility that had been constructed in record time. Around her, 50 of the military's best dog handlers worked with their partners. The animals wore newly designed equipment specifically created for space operations, environmental suits that would allow them to breathe in alien atmospheres, enhanced sensors that amplified their natural abilities, and communication devices that would let their human partners know what they were detecting. Listen up. Maria called out to the assembled teams. The aliens think our dogs are a weakness. We're going to prove them wrong. These animals are going to be the key to winning this war. She pointed to different groups around the room. Team Alpha, you're working on tracking. Your dogs need to follow scent trails through spaceship ventilation systems. Team Beta, you're on detection. Your animals have to identify alien infiltrators who might be disguised as humans. Team Charlie, you're learning to hunt in zero gravity. Private Danny Brooks raised his hand. Sergeant, how are we supposed to get close enough to the aliens to use our dogs? That's where the plan gets interesting, Maria replied. She activated a holographic display showing a detailed schematic of a Zapirian ship. Intelligence reports that their vessels recycle air just like ours do. Every breath they take, every chemical they release, it all goes through their life support systems. And dogs can track through recycled air. She pointed to different sections of the alien ship. A dog can follow a scent trail through an entire spacecraft. They can tell which rooms have been occupied, which corridors have seen recent traffic, and which areas contain enemies trying to hide. Danny's partner, a black Labrador named Shadow, sat beside him with alert ears. The dog seemed to understand that something important was happening, even if he couldn't grasp the specifics. But how do we get onto their ships? Asked Corporal Lisa Turner. The same way dogs have always gotten into places they weren't supposed to be, Maria answered with a slight smile. Quietly, carefully, and by using abilities their enemies don't expect. Over the next week, reports began filtering in from the outer colonies. The Zapirians had begun their preliminary attacks, sending small scout ships to observe human settlements before the main assault. But something unexpected was happening, the alien scouts were starting to disappear. On the colony world of New Texas, a team led by Staff Sergeant Tony Richards and his border collie, Scout, had achieved something that should have been impossible. They had captured a Zapirian reconnaissance vessel. How did you do it? Admiral Parker asked during a video call from Earth. Tony was sitting in his temporary command post, Scout lying on the floor beside him, panting slightly from their recent mission. The aliens thought their ship was invisible to our sensors, and it was. Our equipment couldn't detect them at all. But Scout could smell them. Smell them? Yes, ma'am. Apparently, Zapirians have a very distinct scent, and it carries through their ship's exhaust systems. Scout picked up their trail from 2 miles away. We followed them to their landing site and waited. Then what? When they landed, they left one alien on board as a guard while the others went to scout our colony. But they didn't know about Scout's other abilities. He could smell the guard's emotional state through the ship's air vents. When the alien got nervous or alert, Scout could tell. We used that information to avoid the guard's attention and get inside. Admiral Parker was amazed. And you captured the ship? The guard never saw us coming. Scout detected his exact location through scent, and we were able to neutralize him without triggering any alarms. The other aliens returned to find their ship in our hands and their guard unconscious. What did you learn from the captured vessel? Tony's expression grew serious. A lot, ma'am. Their ships are advanced, but they have weaknesses. And Scout found something else: their internal security systems don't account for Earth animals at all. To their sensors, dogs don't even register as life forms worth monitoring. As reports like Tony's came in from across human space, a pattern began to emerge. The Zapirians' technological superiority was real, but their arrogance was proving to be a fatal flaw. They had dismissed humanity's greatest allies as primitive pets, and that mistake was about to cost them dearly. In the command center on Earth, Admiral Parker looked at the countdown timer showing 23 days remaining. For the first time since the crisis began, she allowed herself to feel a glimmer of hope. "Dr. Walsh," she said, "I think your theory might just save us all." The scientist nodded, watching as Max lifted his head at the sound of his name. "Dogs have been saving humans for 30,000 years, Admiral. They're not about to stop now." Earth's response. The success at New Texas was just the beginning. As word spread through the human colonies about the effectiveness of dog-human teams against Zapirian scouts, Admiral Parker authorized the deployment of specialized units across the Outer Rim. Each team consisted of a highly trained soldier paired with a military working dog, equipped with the latest environmental suits and enhanced sensory equipment. The results were remarkable. On the mining world of Kepler 442, Corporal Janet Mills and her Belgian Malinois, Ranger, intercepted 3 Zapirian infiltration attempts in 1 week. The aliens had been using some form of optical camouflage that rendered them nearly invisible to human eyes and sensors, but Ranger could track their distinctive scent signature through the colony's air recycling system. "They smell like ozone and copper," Janet reported during her debriefing. Ranger can pick up their trail from half a mile away, even through sealed environmental systems. Meanwhile, on the agricultural colony of Haven, Master Sergeant Paul Chen and his German Shepherd, Titan, discovered that the aliens were using subsonic frequencies to communicate, sounds completely inaudible to human ears but clearly detectable to dogs. This breakthrough allowed human forces to intercept Zapirian communications for the first time. Back on Earth, Dr. Walsh worked around the clock to analyze the incoming data. His makeshift laboratory had been expanded into a full-scale research facility, where teams of behaviorists, military tacticians, and engineers studied every aspect of the human-canine partnership that might be weaponized against the Zapirians. "The key is their arrogance," Dr. Walsh explained to Admiral Parker during their daily briefing. Max lay beside his chair, occasionally lifting his head when interesting scents drifted through the facility's ventilation system. The Zapirians have conquered hundreds of species, but every single one of those species evolved alone. They've never encountered a partnership species before. "What do you mean by partnership species?" the Admiral asked. "Most intelligent life forms that reach spacefaring capability do so through competition and dominance hierarchies. The strongest, smartest, or most aggressive individuals lead their species to the stars. But humans are different. We succeeded because we learned to cooperate, first with each other, then with other species entirely." Dr. Walsh brought up a holographic display showing brain scans of humans and dogs working together. When a human and dog operate as a team, their neurological patterns actually synchronize. They share stress responses, anticipate each other's actions, and process information cooperatively. It's not just training, it's a form of biological partnership that took millennia to develop. Admiral Parker studied the brain scans with fascination. "And the Zapirians have no framework for understanding this?" "None whatsoever. To them, dogs are just non-sapient animals that we keep around for unknown reasons. They literally cannot comprehend that we're not one species, but 2 species functioning as a single unit." As the 18th day of the ultimatum arrived, reports from the outer colonies painted an increasingly clear picture. Human-dog teams were successfully infiltrating Zapirian scout ships, gathering intelligence, and even capturing alien technology. But more importantly, they were demonstrating capabilities that the aliens simply couldn't counter. On the fortress world of Gibraltar Station, Captain Mike Rodriguez and his Doberman, Zeus, achieved what military analysts had deemed impossible. They boarded an active Zapirian battlecruiser. The ship was in stealth mode, conducting reconnaissance on our orbital defenses, Rodriguez reported via encrypted transmission. Zeus detected their presence from the station's docking bay, through vacuum. Their ship was venting trace gases that he could smell even in the thin atmosphere around the station. Admiral Parker leaned forward. "How did you get aboard?" Zeus led me to their docking port. They were using some kind of dimensional shifting technology to remain partially phased out of normal space, but Zeus could still track their scent. We waited until they materialized fully to conduct scans, then breached their airlock. "What did you find?" Rodriguez's voice grew tense. "Their ship is more advanced than we thought, but it's also more vulnerable." Zeus found something their sensors couldn't detect: fear. The alien crew was terrified of something, and Zeus could smell it on them. "Fear of what?" "Us, ma'am. They're afraid of us. Not our technology or our weapons, but us specifically." Zeus detected elevated stress hormones, territorial aggression markers, and something else, something that felt like panic. This revelation prompted Dr. Walsh to develop a new theory. Working with xenobiologists and military psychologists, he concluded that the Zapirian Empire's previous conquests had all followed predictable patterns. They would arrive, demonstrate overwhelming technological superiority, and the target species would either surrender or fight conventionally, and lose. "But we're not fighting conventionally," Dr. Walsh explained to the assembled command staff. "Every time they think they understand our capabilities, we do something completely outside their frame of reference. They're beginning to realize that their standard conquest model doesn't work on humans." Colonel Mitchell nodded. "It's psychological warfare, but using biology as the weapon." "Exactly. Dogs don't just give us enhanced senses and tracking abilities. They give us unpredictability. The Zapirians can model human behavior to some degree, but they can't model the behavior of human dog teams because they've never encountered anything like it." As the countdown timer reached 15 days, Admiral Parker made a crucial decision. Instead of waiting for the Zapirians to return with their full force, humanity would take the offensive. "Operation Pack Hunt is authorized," she announced to the Joint Chiefs. "Every available human-dog team will be deployed to strategic positions throughout the sector. When the Zapirians arrive, they won't be facing a desperate last stand. They'll be walking into the largest coordinated hunt in human history." The preparation was intense. Transport ships carried teams to asteroid bases, hidden stations, and camouflaged positions throughout the Zapirian approach routes. Each team was given specific objectives: track alien movements, gather intelligence, and when possible, disable enemy vessels using methods the aliens couldn't anticipate or counter. Sergeant Lopez found herself assigned to the forward observation post on Titan Station, along with her German Shepherd partner, Bruno. The station was positioned at the edge of the system, perfectly placed to detect the Zapirian fleet's arrival. "Remember," she told her team during their final briefing, "we're not trying to win a conventional battle. We're trying to prove that their assumptions about us are wrong. Every successful mission, every time we do something they can't predict, we chip away at their confidence." Private Brooks, now paired with Shadow, raised his hand. "What if they adapt? What if they figure out how to counter our dogs?" Lopez smiled grimly. "Danny, they've had 10,000 years to perfect their conquest methods. They're not going to reinvent their entire approach in 2 weeks. And even if they try..." She gestured to Bruno, who was sitting alertly beside her. "Dogs have been adapting to new challenges for 30,000 years. They're really good at it." As the teams took their positions, Dr. Walsh remained on Earth, coordinating intelligence and developing new tactics based on incoming field reports. Max rarely left his side, as if the old dog understood that his human needed support during these crucial days. "Admiral," Dr. Walsh said during their final planning session, "there's something else we need to consider. The captured Zapirian communications indicate they're bringing their full sector fleet, not just the 3 ships that initially contacted us." Admiral Parker's expression grew serious. "How many ships are we talking about?" "Intelligence estimates between 50 and 70 vessels, including multiple battle-class cruisers." The number was staggering. Even with their new tactics, humanity was about to face an armada that could destroy entire worlds. But Dr. Walsh wasn't finished. "However, there's something working in our favor. The larger the fleet, the more complex their coordination needs to be. And complex systems have more points of failure." "What do you mean?" "Dogs excel at finding weaknesses that their targets don't even know they have. A fleet of 70 ships isn't just 70 individual targets, it's a network with thousands of potential vulnerabilities. And we're about to unleash the best hunters in the galaxy on them." On the 13th day, long-range sensors detected the approach of the Zapirian fleet. The ships emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the system, their formation perfect and intimidating. Admiral Parker watched the tactical display as dozens of alien vessels arranged themselves for what they clearly expected to be a final, overwhelming assault. "All units, this is command," she announced over the secure communication network. "The Zapirians have arrived. Operation Pack Hunt is now active. Show them what happens when they threaten our pack." Across the system, in hidden positions and concealed stations, 50 human dog teams prepared to begin the greatest hunt of their lives. The aliens thought they were coming to finish off a primitive species. Instead, they were about to discover that they had walked into a trap 30,000 years in the making. The hunt begins. The Zapirian fleet moved through the system with the confidence of predators who had never known defeat. 73 ships in perfect formation, their hulls gleaming with the energy patterns that had struck fear into hundreds of conquered species. Commander Vexel stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Eternal Dominion, studying the tactical displays that showed human positions throughout the system. "Pathetic," he remarked to his second-in-command. "They've scattered their forces across dozens of tiny outposts. No coordination, no strategy. This will be over within hours." What Vexel didn't know was that every one of those scattered outposts contained a human dog team that had been tracking his fleet since the moment they emerged from hyperspace. On Titan Station, Sergeant Lopez crouched beside Bruno in their concealed observation post. The German Shepherd's nose was working constantly, processing the trace gases being vented by the alien ships even across thousands of kilometers of space. "What do you smell, boy?" she whispered. Bruno's behavior told her everything she needed to know. His hackles were raised, his ears rotating to catch sounds beyond human hearing, and his body language screamed alert. The dog had detected something the station's sensors had missed. Lopez activated her communication device. "Command, this is Titan Station. Bruno's detecting subsonic transmissions from the fleet. They're coordinating something our equipment isn't picking up." Within minutes, the intelligence was relayed to every human position in the system. The Zapirians were using sound frequencies below human perception to coordinate their attack, but every dog in the operation could hear them clearly. Private Brooks and Shadow were positioned on the asteroid mining station Series 7 when the first phase of the Zapirian assault began. 3 alien cruisers approached the civilian colony on Harmony, their weapons charging for what should have been a devastating opening strike. "Shadow, track," Brooks whispered. The black Labrador's head turned, following scent trails that were completely invisible to human senses. Even in the vacuum of space, the alien ships were leaving traces, electromagnetic signatures that carried molecular information, gravitational disturbances that displaced trace particles, quantum field fluctuations that somehow registered on canine senses that science hadn't fully understood. Shadow suddenly went rigid, his gaze fixed on a point in empty space several thousand kilometers from the approaching cruisers. "Command, this is Series 7. Shadows detecting something in grid section 7 Alpha. No visual contact, but he's locked onto something. The warning came just in time. Harmony's defense platforms opened fire on the area Shadow had indicated, revealing a cloaked Zapirian stealth ship that had been moving into position for a surprise attack. The ship's camouflage failed under weapons fire, and the colony's defenders destroyed it before it could strike. On the bridge of the Eternal Dominion, Commander Vexel stared at the tactical display in disbelief. How did they detect the stealth ship? Unknown, Commander. Our cloaking technology has never failed before. But this was only the beginning. Across the system, human dog teams were turning the Zapirians' carefully planned assault into chaos. Dogs were detecting cloaked ships, tracking communication patterns, and sensing troop movements that should have been impossible to predict. Captain Rodriguez and Zeus had positioned themselves on the military station Gibraltar, II, directly in the path of the main Zapirian advance. As the alien fleet approached, Zeus began exhibiting behavior that Rodriguez had never seen before. Command, Zeus is detecting something unusual about the lead ships. He's showing territorial aggression patterns, but also, fear recognition. Explain, Admiral Parker's voice crackled through the communication system. The aliens in those ships are afraid of something, but Zeus is also responding to them as if they're pack rivals, ma'am. Like he's recognizing another predator species, but one that's operating outside normal pack behavior. This intelligence proved crucial. Dr. Walsh, monitoring from Earth, suddenly understood what was happening. Admiral, the Zapirians aren't just conquistadors, they're apex predators who have never encountered organized resistance from another predator species. Our dogs are recognizing them as territorial competitors. The implications were staggering. For 10,000 years, the Zapirians had been the unchallenged hunters of the galaxy. Now they were facing something they had never encountered, organized prey that fought like predators. Master Sergeant Chen and Titan were stationed on the deep space platform Echo 9 when the Real breakthrough came. Titan began tracking something that registered on no human sensor, a pattern of movement within the Zapirian fleet that suggested internal communication problems. Command, Titan's detecting distress signals from multiple ships in the alien formation. Something's wrong with their coordination. The truth was even better than Chen realized. The constant detection of their stealth ships, the interception of their supposedly secure communications, and the impossible tracking of their movements was creating panic within the Zapirian ranks. For the first time in their species' history, they were being out-hunted. On the Eternal Dominion, Commander Vexel was receiving increasingly frantic reports from his subordinates. Sir, we've lost contact with 7 stealth reconnaissance vessels. The humans are intercepting our subsonic command frequencies. Our cloaking technology appears to be ineffective against their detection methods. Vexel's 4 arms gestured in agitation. How is this possible? Their technology is primitive. But technology wasn't the issue. Across the system, human dog teams were demonstrating capabilities that transcended conventional warfare. They were hunting with instincts refined over millennia, using senses that the Zapirians couldn't understand or counter. The turning point came when Staff Sergeant Williams and his border collie, Ace, achieved the impossible. Positioned on the research station Newton 6, they detected the approach of Commander Vexel's flagship itself, despite the ship's advanced shielding and stealth capabilities. Command, Ace has locked onto the enemy command vessel. It's trying to approach our position using some kind of phase shift technology, but Ace can track it. Are you certain it's their flagship? Admiral Parker asked. Yes, ma'am. Ace is showing alpha threat recognition patterns. Whatever's on that ship, it's the pack leader. This was the opportunity Admiral Parker had been waiting for. All units, converge on Newton 6. We're going to take down their command structure. What followed was unlike any space battle in recorded history. Instead of massive fleets exchanging fire across vast distances, small human dog teams coordinated a precision strike against the Zapirian flagship. Dogs guided weapons systems with an accuracy that no computer could match, tracking the enemy vessel through dimensions that human technology couldn't even detect. Commander Vexel watched in horror as his supposedly invisible ship came under devastating accurate fire from positions that should have been unable to target him. "How are they doing this?" he demanded. His weapons officer's voice was shaking. "Sir, they're not using their technology. They're using something else. Something we don't understand." The Eternal Dominion shuddered under multiple impacts. Its shields, designed to withstand the most advanced weapons in the galaxy, were failing under the coordinated assault of primitive human ships guided by the senses of creatures the Zapirians had dismissed as pets. As his flagship began to list, Vexel made a decision that would have been unthinkable hours earlier. "Signal the fleet. Full retreat." "Sir. You heard me. These humans aren't primitive, they're something we've never encountered before. Signal the Empire. This species is not to be underestimated." But the retreat was already too late. Human dog teams throughout the system had positioned themselves along every escape route. As the Zapirian fleet attempted to withdraw, they found themselves facing the same impossible detection and tracking that had defeated their attack. Ships that tried to cloak were immediately targeted. Vessels that attempted to use dimensional shifting were tracked through spacetime itself. The Zapirians, for the first time in their species' history, were being systematically out-hunted by creatures they had considered inferior. On Titan Station, Sergeant Lopez watched as Bruno tracked the movements of fleeing alien ships with casual precision. The dog's tail was wagging slightly, not from happiness, but from the satisfaction of a successful hunt. "Good boy," she whispered, scratching behind his ears. "You showed them what happens when they threaten our pack." The battle that the Zapirians had expected to last hours instead lasted 3 days, as human dog teams systematically dismantled the most powerful fleet in the galaxy using tactics that predated spaceflight by 30,000 years. When it was over, fewer than 20 alien ships escaped the system, and Commander Vexel was among the prisoners. Admiral Parker stood in the detention facility on Earth, looking through the transparent aluminum barrier at the alien commander who had threatened humanity's extinction. Beside her, Dr. Walsh's dog Max sat calmly, occasionally sniffing in Vexel's direction. "You don't understand what you've done," Vexel said, his translated words carrying traces of what might have been fear. "The Empire will send larger fleets. More powerful weapons." "No, Commander," Admiral Parker replied. "You don't understand what we've done. We've proven that your empire isn't invincible. And more importantly," she gestured to Max, who was watching the alien with alert, intelligent eyes, "we've shown the galaxy that there's more than one way to be apex predators." Vexel stared at the dog, finally beginning to comprehend what his species had truly encountered. Humans weren't just another spacefaring race to be conquered. They were something entirely new in the galaxy's history, a partnership species that fought as one entity across 2 different evolutionary lines. "Your animal companions," Vexel said slowly. "Partners," Admiral Parker corrected. "And that's why you lost, Commander. You saw weakness where there was actually strength beyond your comprehension." As news of the victory spread throughout human space, Dr. Walsh found himself in his laboratory, writing the final report on Operation Pack Hunt. Max lay beside his desk, contentedly chewing on a bone that had been sent by grateful colonists from the Outer Rim. 30,000 years of partnership, he wrote. And they called it primitive. They thought emotional bonds made us weak, not realizing that those bonds are what make us the most effective hunters in the galaxy. Victory. 6 months after the defeat of the Zapirian fleet, Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the newly commissioned New Horizon 2, watching as construction crews put the finishing touches on humanity's first deep space defense station. Beside him, Rex, now fully recovered from his injuries and wearing a specially designed service medal, sat with the dignity befitting a war hero. The original probe that the Zapirians had attached to his ship had been reverse-engineered by Earth's scientists, leading to breakthrough advances in sensor technology and interstellar communication. More importantly, it had provided the intelligence needed to locate and contact other species that had suffered under Zapirian rule. "Captain," Lieutenant Carter reported from her station, "we're receiving a transmission from the Alterian delegation." The view screen activated, showing a tall, crystalline being whose species had been liberated from Zapirian control 3 months earlier. Behind the Alterian ambassador, Jake could see other alien representatives, former subjects of the Empire who had never imagined that freedom was possible. "Captain Morrison," the Alterian said, their translated voice carrying tones of deep respect, "the Coalition of Free Worlds wishes to express our gratitude once again. Your species has accomplished what we thought impossible." Jake nodded politely. "We were glad to help, Ambassador. No one should have to live under the threat of conquest. If I may ask," the Alterian continued, "how is your companion? The one who was injured during first contact." Jake looked down at Rex, whose tail began wagging at the attention. "Rex is doing well, thank you. He's actually become something of a celebrity. We receive letters from across the galaxy asking about him." This was an understatement. Rex's role in detecting the Zapirian probe had become legendary throughout human space and beyond. Children on distant colonies drew pictures of the brave dog who had helped save humanity. Scientists studied recordings of his behavior to better understand the partnership between humans and dogs. Military academies across the galaxy now included courses on interspecies cooperation based on the human canine model. "The Coalition has been discussing your proposal for joint exploration missions," the Alterian ambassador said. "Several species are interested in pairing their people with Earth animals for deep space operations." Jake smiled. "Dr. Walsh's program has been expanded to include cats, dolphins, and even some bird species. It turns out humans aren't the only species that benefits from animal partnerships." Indeed, the success of Operation Pack Hunt had sparked a revolution in military and exploration tactics across the galaxy. Species that had been conquered by the Zapirians were discovering that their own relationships with native animals could be developed into powerful advantages. The rigid, hierarchical approach to galactic civilization was giving way to something more organic and cooperative. On Earth, Admiral Parker reviewed the latest intelligence reports in her office. The Zapirian Empire, once spanning half the galaxy, had fragmented into dozens of smaller territories as former subject species declared independence. Most remarkably, many of these newly free worlds were adopting human-style partnerships with their local fauna. Dr. Walsh entered her office, followed by Max, who had become as much a fixture in military headquarters as any human officer. "Admiral, we've received word from the research expedition to the vegan system," he reported. "They've successfully established contact with a species that domesticated something similar to dolphins about 8,000 years ago. The partnership applications are extraordinary." "What kind of applications?" "Underwater exploration that makes our submarines look primitive. They can navigate ocean depths that our technology can't reach, communicate through whale song languages, and detect mineral deposits through echolocation patterns. The Zapirians never conquered their ocean cities because they couldn't understand how a primitive species could have such advanced underwater capabilities." Admiral Parker shook her head in amazement. "How many species do you think were dismissed by the Empire because they had animal partnerships? Based on our current data? Probably hundreds. The Zapirians' greatest weakness was their inability to recognize intelligence that didn't follow their model." As they spoke, news arrived of another Zapirian defeat. A former Imperial fleet had been outmaneuvered by a coalition of species using animal-guided tactics. The hunters had become the hunted across multiple star systems. But the most significant change was happening on the former Zapirian homeworld itself. Commander Vexel, under house arrest while serving as a cultural liaison, had been observing human-dog teams for months. His reports back to his own species were causing a revolution in Zapirian thinking. "They are not two species," he had written in his latest communication. "They are one species that exists across two different evolutionary lines. Every human decision is informed by canine input. Every canine action is guided by human intelligence. We were not defeated by superior technology, we were defeated by superior evolution. The concept was so alien to Zapirian thinking that it had taken months for his own people to begin understanding it. But slowly, some Zapirians were beginning to question the philosophy of domination that had driven their empire for millennia. Jake and Rex were making their rounds of the new defense station when they encountered a group of young cadets from the newly established Galactic Defense Academy. The students represented a dozen different species, all training in multi-species cooperation tactics. Captain Morrison called out a young human cadet. "Is it true that Rex can detect cloaked ships from hundreds of kilometers away?" Jake chuckled. "Rex has abilities that our sensors can't match, but the real strength isn't in what he can do alone. It's in what we can do together." He knelt down beside Rex, who had become accustomed to these impromptu teaching moments. "Rex doesn't just detect threats, he helps me make better decisions. When he's calm, I know the situation is safe. When he's alert, I know to pay attention. When he's aggressive, I know we're facing something dangerous. We've been partners for so long that we think as one unit." A young Altarian cadet raised a crystalline appendage. "Sir, is it true that other human explorers are taking Earth animals to distant worlds?" "That's right. Cats are excellent for detecting dimensional anomalies, something about their spatial awareness that we don't fully understand. Dolphins can navigate through quantum currents that confuse our computers. Birds can sense magnetic field variations that help with navigation. Each partnership brings unique advantages." Jake stood, Rex moving fluidly beside him. The Zapirians thought emotional bonds were weakness. But those bonds are what allow different species to function as one unit. They give us capabilities that no single species could achieve alone. As the cadets dispersed to their training sessions, Jake and Rex continued their patrol. Through the station's viewports, they could see ships from dozens of different worlds, former enemies now working together, united by the revolutionary concept that diversity and cooperation were stronger than uniformity and domination. 6 months earlier, humanity had faced extinction at the hands of a galactic empire. Now, that empire was crumbling as its former subjects embraced a new model of civilization based on partnership rather than conquest. Rex, sensing his human's contemplative mood, pressed against Jake's leg in a gesture of companionship that had remained unchanged for 30,000 years. "Good boy," Jake said quietly, scratching behind the dog's ears. "We did it, didn't we? We showed them that being different isn't a weakness, it's our greatest strength." As if in response, Rex's tail wagged, and somewhere in the distance, the sound of children from a dozen different worlds could be heard laughing as they played with Earth animals that had traveled impossible distances to find new homes among the stars. The Zapirian Empire had ruled through fear and technological superiority. The new galactic coalition would be built on something far more powerful, the bonds between species that had chosen to trust each other. In the end, the aliens had been right about one thing: emotional bonds did make humans different from every other species they had encountered. They had just been completely wrong about whether that difference was a weakness or the ultimate strength. The end.